and to our viewers around the world. I'm Tiffany Wangui, and this is Media Hive. Today we delve into the role of social media in youth political activism, Africa's ongoing battle with food insecurity, women-led social enterprises that are transforming lives, and the decolonization of African fashion. Stay tuned with us for the next 30 minutes and feel free to join the conversation across all social media platforms using hashtag MediaHive. Youth political activism gaining momentum through social media across Africa. Food insecurity remains a pressing challenge, with millions going hungry despite vast resources. Women-led social enterprises in Kenya empower women to break the cycle of poverty. African fashion designers redefine cultural identity, challenging Eurocentric standards. For our top story today, youth across Africa are using social media platforms like X and TikTok to demand political change. These platforms are becoming essential tools for grassroots mobilization, especially in countries like Nigeria and Kenya. Through organized online protests, youths are bringing attention to issues such as police reform, inequality, and political accountability. If you would like to share your thoughts, please do so using the hashtag MediaHive.
Social media has become a powerful platform for African youth to voice their opinions and drive change. In Nigeria, we saw the hashtag #EndSARS movement gain momentum, while in Kenya, youth mobilized protest against the finance bill. Let's take a look at how young people across Africa are using this platform to change policies and demand accountability.
Thank you for your question. It depends. At times I do trust it, especially if it comes from a specific source that's credible. However, it's also very common for a lot of views, political views, to be shared online that's misinformation. So I also have I have that concern. So it just depends if it's from a credible source.
Well, yes, I do, because sometimes it's true, and it's up to us to choose what we know is true, as opposed to just taking everything. It's important that we clarify from the mainstream media that what he said is true.
Do you think social media is a good way for young people to push political change?
It is a very good way because I'm also a Gen Z and we were born in the digital space. So it's actually such a great platform to share information to reach a wider audience, and for it's even more effective in terms of the youth. So yes, I do agree.
Thank you for your time.
Change.
Yes, it is, because it gets to reach many people, more people who don't read maybe newspapers and stuff like that. So social media is good, especially for the youth. Yes.
With the widespread use of social media, youths in Africa are forming alliances and organizing protests on issues that matters to them. From inequality to police reform, these movements are igniting debates across the continent.
And now we're joined with our correspondent who is here in studio live with us, Heinz Louisa. So it seems that these movements are being led by the younger generation, and these people want to see change immediately. They are probably tired of waiting for change. So what does this say about this generation's relationship with traditional political systems?
Absolutely, Tiffany. Today's youth are finding traditional politics frustratingly unresponsive and slow. Many feel that change has to come from them, especially given their personal experiences with issues like unemployment and police brutality. Social media gives them an immediate, powerful platform to unite and act on their frustrations, making it difficult for political leaders to ignore.
Joining us now is a political analyst, Paul Orlando. Thank you for being here today. So many young people are seeing social media as the most effective way to be heard. But there's still some skepticism about whether it leads to lasting change. So, from your perspective, what impact does social media activism have in the long run, especially here in Africa?
I think social media is a tool that has been used to spread information faster than how it used to be. It has a larger circle, so many people, you can reach many people at a very short time. It's cheap and very inexpensive, if I could say. So I think in Africa, it's a great tool to be used for people to be heard. And even though there are many people who are skeptical about it, my opinion is that it's one of the ways to spread the political activism in Africa, and I think it is a positive way, and it is maybe something that can change the political systems in our continent.
And given the energy behind these movements, do you think digital activism could eventually influence formal politics or even electoral outcomes?
Yes, I think the activism through maybe social media and what happened during the finance bill can really bring change to a lot of stuff. What the activists need to do, because here we're dealing with Gen Zs and maybe the millennials. This, as long as the pressure is kept, the pressure is kept. I believe that they could change anything they want to change.
And given the risks of government censorship, what strategies can youth activists use to maintain momentum in their movements?
I think in social media, there are many people who are on social media, and what the government maybe has done in previous years by switching off some certain platforms so that the news or this pressure is not built. This generation should be a bit not static but more mobile in what they do. They should change tax every time, because you know that the government will only block you or block the internet, but they cannot block the entire internet. So they should look for other platforms that they can spread their political views on. So if today you're on X, tomorrow you're in Facebook, and tomorrow and the other day you on TikTok, however you want to spread it.
Lastly, how do you see the role of social media activism evolving as more African nations embrace digital connectivity?
I think soon, and very soon, we'll have obviously many other platforms on social media. And when they are in Africa, you can say, for example, Kenya, we are internet is the entire region. We have about 75% of Kenya now covered. Some countries are still maybe below 50. As the internet grows and mobile network grows across Africa, I think that the political activism in many regions will grow. And I think that's what this is the Gen Zs and the millennials should hold on.
Those are all fascinating insights, thank you. So it seems social media is just the beginning, and we could be seeing a larger cultural shift in how African youth shape the political landscape. On to our next story. Food insecurity remains a major issue in Africa. While millions go hungry, inadequate food storage and transportation often lead to substantial food wastes. Experts are implementing innovative solutions to address this issue, including cold storage technologies and food redistribution initiatives to reduce waste and improve access to food. To join in on this conversation, use any social media platform using the hashtag MediaHive.
Food insecurity affects millions across Africa, with issues like food spoilage and inadequate cold storage being primary contributors. Here in Kenya and Nigeria, agricultural experts work on solutions to reduce food waste and improve food distribution.
What do you think are the main causes of food insecurity in Kenya?
Talking about food insecurity, as a country, we are lagging behind. Because tell me why we are importing maize, yet our farms can grow maize. Tell me why we are importing sugar, yet we are closing our own sugar factories. It's so bad. I call it backward, and I call it, or rather I call this a government full of vagabonds who don't want to do their work. Because if they would be empowering farmers to do their own crop farming and to supply the entire country, we'll be having a good number of food stores, whereby even when the drought comes, we don't receive those punitive donations that they give us with the UNs and other countries. Currently, our food stores, they're rather dry, or the maize in there are rotten. So I don't know what to say. But from my perspective, our food security, we are still behind. It's very poor.
In Kenya, organizations are implementing cold storage technologies to prevent food from spoiling before it reaches consumers. Meanwhile, food redistribution initiatives are helping feed families in need by repurposing surplus food. These approaches are critical in combating hunger. I am Jen Rose.
So it's interesting to hear the role that technology is playing in reducing food insecurity. Heinz Louisa is with us in studio to comment. So we know that access to food isn't necessarily the issue. The issue is getting this food to the people in a sustainable way. So why do you think this balance has been so difficult for African countries to achieve?
That's a great point, Tiffany. The infrastructure is one major factor without reliable transport and storage. A lot of food gets lost along the way. Then there is the economic aspect, where high costs make this technology inaccessible for some communities. It's a challenging balance, but one that experts are actively working to address.
Right. And it seems innovations are critical, but it would take a collective effort from both the government and communities to truly solve this issue. And now we are joined by an agricultural farmer, Nelly Karanju. Thank you for being here today. How does climate change specifically affect food insecurity in Africa, and what adaptations would you recommend?
Climate change has affected food security in Africa. And I'll talk about the Kenya scenario because that is where I live. And I've been a farmer and I have witnessed what changes we have seen through the farming experience. Climate change has affected the weather patterns. Historically, we knew we could predict the rains, the long rains and even the short rains. But this has been disrupted and the farmer cannot be able to organize himself or herself on when to plant and even sometimes when to harvest because the rains are erratic and even sometimes we get a prolonged drought and flooding which affect our working system in the shamba. But this one can be mitigated by sometimes adapting drought-resistant crops and even intercropping so that the soil also, which is swept away during floods, and make it poor for food planting. We can use nitrogen fixing crops so that we can enrich the soil. And again, farmers can really adapt in the weather with support from the government, which should build dams to collect the water and water pans also to collect water during the rainy season and use it during the drought, because a lot of food is wasted and during the floods because of storage, food decay, and also a lot of animals also die during the drought and even are swept away by the floods, both domestic and even wild animals, which is very, very disruptive. But the governments need to do a lot to support the farmers so that they can be able to adapt with all these climate changes, and also train them and sensitize them about contributing to the climate changes, because this is all about global warming, which has disrupted the weather.
And given these challenges, do you think solutions like cold storage and food redistribution are enough, or do we need a deeper restructuring of food systems in the continent?
I think the governments, in consultation with the farmers, they should make avail cold storage near the farmer, and also silos for grains and for grains, so that there's no waste at the production level. And the other thing I think is that they should also introduce drying. They should establish drying mechanisms that do not depend on weather, so that the food can be dried up even when it is raining, so that it doesn't go to waste. The other thing is that they should redistribute the food according to the need within the country, so that where there is plenty, it can be taken to other people who need the commodity. And that way, people exchange foodstuffs according to their need and the markets. The other thing I feel is that the government should buy all the food and store it so that they are able to redistribute it and give the farmer a good price, so that they feel needed at any time. And also they should discourage importing of food before they have consumed everything that has been produced by the farmers, because this one has discouraged the farmers when the governments buy food from outside and they still have a lot of stock in their storage. The other thing I think is that they should really refurbish the road networks so that the road, I mean, the food is able to reach the markets and be transported from one area to the other. And I also feel that many people are dying of hunger when there's so much among other people, some because they cannot afford. And I feel that the government should make food, especially for basic foods, available and accessible to everybody. And when I was thinking about this, I thought they should actually come out with the price controls so that everybody can afford the basic
And
needs.
what role can local communities play in reducing food insecurity beyond just governmental or technological interventions?
I think communities with the government can come up with a alert policy because arable land for farming has been shrinking due to overpopulation. And communities should be encouraged to release land for farming other than building everywhere. And this one can only come up, be achieved if the government come up with a land policy for everybody. The other thing I feel which is affecting food security is that young people are really not keen on farming, and even getting people to do work at the farm is difficult because they always find it like it is a poor man's in any job. But these young people should be encouraged to work in the farm, and they have to be motivated and encouraged early. And I think if they are mentored and trained and also supported, especially through contract farming, they can see that the farming is good because they are assured of ready market and also profit. So you encourage them to do farming. Already some people who have gone into that, they are saying it is good. The other thing I think can help is farmers can work together in cooperatives like farmers associations, so that they pool resources together, they pool even labor together, and even marketing, so that they can share the profits and even the losses, which will be minimum, and it encourages them also to continue to get even support and from microfinance bodies, so that when they are together as a body, they are well supported, and they are also learn from each other, sharing experiences, which will be beneficial to each and everyone. And all that is towards food security. The other thing is that sometimes we have to go back to our traditional way of storing food, and this one can be learned from the experienced farmers. And also value addition is important, because like sometimes there is so much milk, they can make powdered milk. They can even make juices from fruits, and even come up with their own millers or anything that will help the community.
Thank you for your insights. It is clear that food insecurity isn't just about food itself. It's tied to a broader systematic issue that affects communities across Africa. In our next story, we spotlight women-led social enterprises that are breaking the cycle of poverty. Initiatives like Akira Chicks in Kenya are empowering women through tech training, helping them gain skills and access to better job opportunities. By providing education and resources, these programs are transforming communities and creating lasting change. To join in on this conversation, use the hashtag MediaHive across all social media platforms.
Across Kenya, women-led social enterprises are changing lives by empowering women with the skills they need to enter the tech industry. Programs like Akarex train women in coding, software development, and business skills, enabling them to secure stable jobs and even start their businesses.
Yes, I do believe that empowering women with training helps them with the entire communities, because they're able to pass down the knowledge that they know to either family, friends, or even people who are in that community or in that industry.
These initiatives go beyond training by creating networks of support that uplift the entire communities. With more women in tech, these enterprises are making an undeniable mark on Kenya's economy. I'm Steve Lewis.
It is so inspiring to see how these initiatives are truly working. Heinz Louisa is with us in studio to comment. Do you think tech training for women isn't just about skills, but it's also a catalyst for economic change?
Absolutely. When women gain financial independence, it has a ripple effect on their families and communities. Many of these women become role models, motivating others to pursue similar paths and even advocate for gender equality in the workforce.
And that kind of empowerment can shift the economic and social fabric of an entire community. Now we turn to social enterprise directors, Noni Weru and Monique Brown. Thank you for joining us. How can these social enterprises better collaborate with private sector to expand their impact and sustainability?
There's a lot. To be very fair, probably the major one is financial support from banks and institutions. There seems to still be a very stigmatized process of have you asked your husband? Have you, other businesses that I've dealt with, it's much easier for a male director to go in and to get a loan or support or an overdraft versus a female business, in particular an all-female business, because they still seem to lean towards men in the directorship, as those are the ones that have the controlling power or the final decisions or the ability to repay back loans.
And in what ways do you believe empowering women economically influences other areas of community development?
People from upcountry, most of them are already trained, and when they come to Nairobi, obviously they're looking for jobs, and we give them the opportunity because they've got the craftsmanship. We offer them that chance to show their expertise in the field of bag making, and that creates jobs.
How would you say tech training and empowerment impact communities beyond just the individual women involved?
I tend to find organizations that we work with a lot, what they end up doing is that the women bring in their children, they bring in younger women, they bring in neighborhood women that can then learn the process and learn, for instance, like basket weaving that we work with. There is one organization, the Ndara Basket Weavers, that I work with a lot, that we support, and we buy a lot of their products for our stuff. And she is completely focused on other women, supporting other women, and bringing it in and teaching and educating and growing. So it's kind of the saying of like, give a man a fish and he'll eat for the day, teach a man to fish and he'll eat for the rest of his life. This is the women's version is teach a woman how to become strong and confident and have a skill set and money in her pocket so that she is not dependent upon anyone. The ability to walk away, the ability to have freedom and be able to make decisions that is best for her and her family, and then therefore her community. I think that's vitally important for us to do.
Thank you for your insights. Finally, African designers are making waves on the global stage, challenging Eurocentric standards by reclaiming traditional textiles and cultural identity. In this segment, we explore how African fashion is evolving and influencing global trends. With designers embracing their heritage, African fashion is gaining recognition and shaping the industry. Join us across all social media platforms using the hashtag MediaHive.
The African fashion industry grows rapidly, with designers creating unique pieces that honor their heritage.
What does wearing African fashion mean to you personally?
Thank you, Tiffany. I think wearing African attire means so much to me, especially just to be proud of your African colors. And I actually just think Kenyan and West African prints are really beautiful. Yes.
Do you think African fashion designs should be more popular internationally?
Yes, of course. I feel like they're just so beautiful, number one. And just the designs and everything to do with it, the turbans, the dresses, the designs of the dresses, how they blend together during weddings. I love that. I'm a fan of that.
Designers across the continent are embracing traditional textiles, patterns, and styles, challenging global fashion norms and sparking international interest.
It's refreshing to see how African culture is influencing global fashion. Heinz Louisa, do you think with the popularity of these African designs, do they risk cultural appropriation from international brands?
That's a valid concern, Tiffany. While international interest is welcome, there's a risk that big brands may adopt these styles without respecting the cultural origins or giving credit. It's something designers are increasingly vocal about. They want the world to appreciate African fashion for their terms.
And now to discuss this further, we are joined by Fashion Enterprise Directors, Maggie Mungai. Thank you for being here today. So how are African fashion designers balancing authenticity with the global market's demands?
That's a very interesting question, I think, because in the last couple of years, we've seen the industry really start to embrace African heritage. And I think part of the ways this is happening is by blending our cultural patterns, our fabrics, our craftsmanship, and embellishing our designs to sort of be consumable both in the local as well as the global market. So I would say our storytelling and the narrative.
And as African fashion continues to grow, what safeguards should be in place to protect these designers' cultural heritage?
Wow. So one of the things I feel very passionately about is protecting just the intellectual property of designers and actually anything across the globe, which we sort of take for granted and don't do as well as we should, So you find that you'll walk into a shop in Sweden, Malmo, and you see the kanga, and they've taken it and run with it. So I think one of the ways we can really start to protect our designs and our patterns is by just sort of teaching people how to create
How can African designers retain cultural authenticity while appealing to a global audience that may not always understand the origins of their designs?
One of the ways we can do this is by telling our stories and being able to contextualize what fashion means for Africa. So if, for instance, you get a belt that is beaded, which is really the story of the Kamba. If you start to contextualize this and talk about the people who started beadwork and then how it's carried forth to the country, to the region, and then into the global market, then people start to understand what African fashion is all about. And to also then create value to the products that come from these communities. So I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about the quality of products that are coming out of Kenya. And they really, really, really are good. But people will be hesitant to go and buy a bag for a certain amount of money because it's African made, and because we haven't gotten ourselves quite into the global, scene and into the platforms then that just showcase the quality and the value of our work, and then hopefully get the world to follow suit. But we first have to start with Africa.
Thank you for your insight. Today's book review is Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us. This is a raw and emotional and unforgettable book. It tells a story of a woman named Lily, who finds herself caught between love, trauma, and hard choices. Hoover masterfully balances themes of romance and resilience, weaving a narrative that's both heartbreaking and empowering. This book explores the complexities of abuse without sugarcoating its effects, leaving you torn between empathy and frustration. By the end, it's not just a story about love, it's a story about self-love and the courage to break cycles. If you want a read that will stay with you long after you finish, this is it. Thank you for joining us today on Media Hive. Next week, we will continue exploring Africa's stories of innovation and resilience. For more updates, connect with us via all social media platforms using the hashtag MediaHive. I'm Tiffany Wangui.